Good morning, everybody. It's Phil, the miniature model maker, coming to you today early on a Sunday. Why am I doing it early on a Sunday? Because I really want to get done with this kit. I have a need to keep things sequential. If you haven't seen my first stream, one of my biggest pet peeves on YouTube is people who make playlists and then have part one of something, part two of something, part three, and then other videos, and then the final part of the initial thing. Uh, yeah, I like to have them all in one place. So if you want to see the start to finish of that one thing, you can do that and not have to mess around with playlists. So today we are going to do a build of the Gundam Artifact Series 1 Model 2 EXS. This is number 3 of 3 that I got. First one done is Crash Test Bob the Crash Test Dummy. The second one was I'm just going to use that practice for various things. And this one is going to be the full build. I have my instructions over here with notes. So maybe I'll do some, not maybe, I will be doing little tips and tricks and places on this build where you might get hung up doing yours. If you're still able to get them this year, it is 2025. I believe they're still available through various overseas non-US channels, AliExpress being the most likely one. And after trying to do scribing on this yesterday on stream, I'm not able to get these things close enough to my face to see the parts and scribe and have them on camera. So we are not going to be doing that, as it says in the description. I think I'm going to try just doing plain builds for now, and then possibly painting later. Unlike with the Rick Diaz, that was the full start to finish at the current step of painting. I just want to get through some of these to have regular content and to kind of get my backlog down. So yeah, we're going to do the build. The tools we're using today, my trusty Citadel snippers, the regular and chisel X-Acto knives, possibly tweezers. If I need them, I've got the pincets, the really fine tip jobs here, and maybe some sandpaper. We'll see how froggy I'm feeling about getting these details done. I won't be gluing unless a part really requires it to stay on. But I think on this kit, we're in pretty good shape as far as things still sticking together. And I will be I won't be cutting off any parts or making any modifications to it. This is going to be just the straight build as per the instructions. If I want to later on, like not have these bits that I really don't like, I'll do modifications of it off stream. I'll do any scribing of it off stream, etc. So we have our 4 sprues here. Starting with this leg, we will get started. Hajime Mas. All right, so we're going to do parts 31. Oh, I wrote over that. Good thing I have these other instructions here. 31, 32, 34, 22, 56. I'll leave that there for reference. So 31, 32. These ones down here. And I will be cutting as close as I can. If I need to remove some nubs, some gates, as it were. I will. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of a build tutorial for this. And the legs are fairly straightforward. We don't have to worry about them too much. The only real part that on the legs that need to be watched out for are these little guys here that go on the side. Where's Bob? Here's Bob. These things here, they like to not stay on. Okay, that's good. 22 and 34. 22. And 34. And then 56. That's not on this sprue. It's over here. 56. And yeah, I'm going awfully fast and sloppy. Well, not super sloppy. Just fast with this cutting, because I will certainly be fixing them, doing body work and such in the future. But yeah, that part just goes plop right there. Nice. Now here's a point for construction consideration. The C-clip, where people will cut out a portion. Actually, where's my? We'll cut out a portion of this in order to be able to put the foot up into and pull it out in the leg for painting and detail work. I won't be doing that today since I'm not gluing this. But in the future, when the gluing is done, I will be cutting out a little section of here to be able to snap it in and out of the leg, because it fits on one of the little pegs in here. So right here is the peg for it. And if you can I get it? No, see, I can't get it close enough that it won't shine in the light. This helps you figure out which foot goes into which slot. There is a thicker portion here that's at an angle. So if I put it kind of like here, there's a larger portion that's at an angle, like I have my pincets here, and then the peg, because the foot is actually at an angle since the leg attaches also at an angle. So it stands evenly. Well, here, let's keep Bob out. You can see there, the legs attach an angle, so the foot has to go back in at an angle, and I glued that. And I had someone in a Discord the other day comment on how my thumbnails were long. I'm like, yeah, they're great for doing models. I have my own part separator. Got to keep them separated. There, right, sir, Mr. Dad Life Kumpla? I actually can't remember your handle since I'm so used to using your real name. There. Plop, plop, plop. Since that demonstration was over, we don't have to repeat this process again, which is nice. Boop. Okay, and the foot goes pointing towards the big knee part. Push it in, and you can see how it's at the angle like that. Got to make sure that you keep it at that angle. Otherwise, the model will tip over when you assemble it or fully assemble it. And then on this part, there are two holes. Don't be mistaken. The This is where it attaches to the leg. This round part here, this empty part doesn't really do anything. It's just empty plastic. There, one leg done, and you can see how big the separation lines are. Part of that's no, not my cutting. You definitely on these are going to want to shave the internal pegs down to get the even flush fit, because there's a gap here that's like 0.5 mils. It's too small for my 1 mil scraper chisel, but too big for the 0.4. So yeah, it's a weird size. So be careful as you can with this part here, and then this here as well. That's really hard to get down into to smooth out. Um, and then as well as down here, for some reason, this is molded with a gap between these two parts, which I don't know why they did that, but they did. And then there's a sculpted thruster down here between these two. Uh, I don't know, ailerons, uh, that you want to be cognizant of as far if you're trying to keep all your panels smooth. And there's a sculpted rise up in here as well. I don't think it would look too terrible if you just scraped it down with a if you have a thick enough scriber or a spin blade. That's the back of the leg. You really won't be able to tell, but that is molded there. Any other little bits? Yes. Um, the tip of this here, there's a peg that goes through to the other side and kind of fills in. So be careful not to clip that when you have it separated. I don't know. Let me cut this out and I'll show you on the other leg. That might be a better way to do it. All right. So here's this side, and you can see maybe here. Can I? Yeah, it's easiest from this angle. There we go. Right here. That little peg, don't cut that. That's going to be going through and filling in this hole on the other side of the leg. If you want to get really detailed and nitpicky, you're going to need to fill this in to even it out, but at least it'll be mostly full and be a lot easier than having to put a whole bunch of paste or whatever you use to fill your gaps in there. So While you're watching this, what are you doing? Are you building models? Are you coming in and seeing it and leaving? Are you working on something else? I know I like to have build videos on while I'm doing this. It's kind of nice to have the sound of somebody else in the room doing the same thing. Of course, my wife makes plenty of home noise while she's out and about doing her thing, and my cats make plenty of their noise too. That's part 35. Yes. Um, but for some reason, having somebody else's voice and video in the background modeling at the same time just hits differently. All right. This is why. There we go. And push it in. And remember, when you're assembling these things, if you feel like you're having to force it, you probably got the wrong part in the wrong hole. They are very detail engineered to make sure that similar parts don't go in the wrong place. So don't force it. If you're feeling like you're really, really, really having to force it, double check. Something's probably wrong. I've done that a few times and screwed up a part. Okay. This is going a whole lot better today. I do love doing my detail work, but that's slow and is probably very boring. Pop a comment in and tell me if you want to see those sorts of streams once I get a camera that can handle it better. All right, so we finished both legs, and now we are on to what looks like the left arm. And that's part 9 and 10. All right, while I'm thinking about this, hopefully we'll be able to see the difference on these two parts. That's too far away. Okay, well, this is the back side. It's flat, it's smooth. The front has extra details here on that side. Um, so when you're assembling this, that's how you can tell which part goes front, which part goes in back, and not put the left arm in the right shoulder, which I did with the other one earlier, not thinking, out of frustration. No, that's not going to work. Anyways, suffice to say, the part that's not smooth on a surface goes up front, and the part with the little epaulet type things is the rear. There you go. Okay. And then 55. Not on this sprue. All right, here's another point. So this round part is the socket for the torso. And there's a little tab with a bit of a hook on the other side. It's this little hook piece right here that keeps it in the body or in the shoulder. If you slice this off, you'll be able to remove remove this from either the body, depending on how you do it, um, or just slide it in and out for painting. Because I believe the arm, there's a separate tab for the arm. Okay. Yeah, if you want to get very detailed with different colors, like have the basic structure be metallic and then the rest of it be various colors, it's going to be in your best interest to go ahead and snip that little section off so you can paint this and remove the rest for more detailed work. And then this arm is 39 and 40, which are these two here. And then 2. So part 2, one of these little wing jobs. This is also one of the most likely to need to be glued while you're doing assembly. That's fairly likely to fall out along with these extra bits on the legs. And why is it part 2 instead of part 1? Because it's for the right arm. And on the underside of it, there is an R. Let me see if I can do this a little bit. There's an R and L on the underside of these, so you don't get them screwed up. How very nice of them to do that. All right, so there's all the parts. The inside. How do these go together? Like that. And then you, little lovey, go in here. So, all right, I'm holding the rear portion of the shoulder right now, and the clip goes right in there. Just like that. However, do I need to? Nope, I don't need to sand that part down. I do need to sand this part down, though. And this is why it's worth dry fitting. I'm going to try this. Hopefully it doesn't go flying and screw up the build. If a part does go flying, forgive the noises and everything. Hopefully that won't happen. Again, gently pushing. That's all you really need is just gentle force on that. All right, so we've got that in there, so we're not going to lose it, most likely. And then the arm. Here we go. Okay. That fits up in there. There's that lovely slot. Let's go ahead and put this in. The arm, oh yeah, there's a note, something to note there as well. All right, plop. So first thing, before I get to the arm note, there's fair bit of gap between these two parts. So definitely trim your internal pegs. That's just good practice anyways on most of these. Um, it just makes it work better. All right, now this little tab on this arm breaks very, very easily. So you want to be careful when messing with it. And I may even arm off until I'm ready to put the shoulder in the into the body. And the same thing with this. That's going to stay here. Now there is a section there for these parts. And that's 19 and 21. It's a lot easier to see the things I just wanted to show you without having that big gas tank thing sticking on the arm. But we do now need to remove this. The things teachers do to make sure their lesson goes well, right? That may just fit without having to take this off, but we're going to take it off anyway. Going to do it right. Do it right or do it twice, and I guess I'm doing it twice and right at the same time. It's worth the hassle to dry fit everything, even if you got to do it a couple times, if you're after the level of detail. All right, that's good enough. So now we just plop this on. Snap. And then we do have to open this up. Bummer. Okay. On the other ones, I cut off this square bit so I could slide it in and out. I'm starting to see the light as far as the pro Gunpla builders and their part count, increasing part count to make detail work better. Okay, so now we have the back by itself, and there's a semicircular, a half circle there. And we have it oriented this way and this way. Now there is Bob, where are you? Okay. So there is a reason for how they've got it oriented. Is this pushes up against the inside there and makes it so you can't move it too far. You can move it a little bit, but not all the way. However, doing this does make assembly a little bit more painful. So we're going to put this back in here. And this is a point that if you're not a huge detail painter, that you can glue this shoulder socket in, and may even be in your benefit. And I'm wondering if I should do that now. No, I'm not going to, because I want to be able to modify these. Okay, and then checking orientation again. This open space is facing toward me. There, like that. Putting the front piece back in. And there we go. So it's got a little bit of wiggle, but it won't flop around a whole heck of a lot. And we'll just carefully here. So looking at this piece, it's just a normal rectangle. That's a normal rectangle. Push that up in there. And then for some reason, it has the edge of the ailerons outward. And there you go. There's your assembled right arm. So maybe we can go through the left arm a little bit faster using the same process. So if you're watching this, I assume you like uh, Gundam Artifact. Tell me, who's your artifact builder and why? And which build is your favorite of the ones that they've done? I think currently my favorite, I've got two. They're both Japanese guys. 84X Hobbies, Hachion-san, uh, has done some really cool stuff. And if you understand Japanese, he's very easily understood. He speaks clearly, and the music in his videos is nice. Sometimes they're short, and sometimes they're a little bit longer, which I like. Okay, let me see on the arm. I've often got one of his videos on in the background. There we go. All right, in the arm. Now these arms, if you are into detail work, have really nice pre-molded lines to rescribe. They're easy to work with. And I just saw a video by, I believe, is Seb, S-E-B? No. Let's see. Let me see if I can do this without screwing things up. I guess I could use my phone, couldn't I? Steb Plamo, S-E-E-B Plamo, did a really nice video on why you want to scribe ahead of time. A nice little diagram, makes it easy to understand. But same thing I've been talking about is depending on how you prime and paint on these artifacts, you can easily fill in the details. So, rescribing existing lines and making your own lines between panels is a worthwhile thing. But we are probably not going to do that on this guy. I might actually, I might actually just do glue it, give it a wash in soapy water, and then do that weathering with the ink mix I've got. That would look pretty good on this one. This kit does have a massive amount of pre-molded lines. It's very good for the detail on that. Kind of hard to see on, well, anything is hard to see on camera other than the point, but like here, nope, you can't. Can I mess with this a bit and maybe make it a little bit easier? How about the arm? No. But yeah, anyways, this kit is just full of pre-molded lines, pre-sculpted lines. I don't want to confuse them with mold lines. There are plenty of those too, but intended detail is all over this kit. Okay. Now you go like this. You go like that. We push you in gently so we don't break anything. Done. But just for security's sake, we're going to use the back of our. No, we're not. There we go. All right, and then the orientation, again, facing this way. Put the front on. Lordy, here we go. This is where these get fussy and frustrating. Some of these parts. Do I still have this? Yep. Okay. And I'm not forcing it, but I'm having to push. There we go. Ooh. Okay, I guess you do have that much. Is there any difference? Nope, there's no difference. But we do have the front. And make sure the thumb is facing outward. Yeah, I can feel that being a little on the weak side. And carefully sit up. There we are. And this is why I wear black when I do these models. Makes it a whole lot easier to see the parts when they fall in your lap. All right, there we go. And then you go here. And done. Yay. Love it. Sorry, Bob. The next, oh, now we're working towards the thrusters and things in the back. So 47 and 41, lucky me. These guys, these parts require a fair bit of fixing. Given how they have to be cut out. The attachment point goes right up to the piece itself. There's really no gate, maybe a tenth of a mil. So, and the way they're arranged in between some of these pieces makes it pretty difficult to get to. So I suggest assembling them first. You might need to sand down some of this, but remove this one, you're going to need to do any fixing before you attach it. But these guys here in the middle, they do well when you're smoothing out the glue that has seeped through the seam, because there is a seam line on these guys. Okay, now we're looking at parts 45, 46, and 57. Yeah. '46 and 57. Again, 57 is marked with R, so that's the right side. Dextral, if you speak Latin. And they're labeled R1, R2. Very nice of them to do that. Thank you very much. Now, the question, do you want to put this little piece in before attaching the thrusters? Yes, you do. And it okay. And there is actually an arrangement to this. So the pegs are sculpted to one side and at angles. So not just straight up and down in the middle. So you need to be cognizant of where you are putting it and how they're going to be attached. And the little small detail that, unless you're paying attention to it, is hard to notice. The angle that this is molded at, this side is longer than this side. So when you're facing it here, this line is smaller than this. See how much detail and attention they put into this? So you know that you want these pegs that are closer to the back side than the front side to be closest to the back of the part. Okay, and then just checking here, nothing else needs to be um, done inside, so you can put your part together. And boy, there's a ton of gap in here. Again, depends on your level of finickiness, how detailed you want to be, but you could do some pretty neat things with plot plate if you had some that are thin enough. And now we just push the thrusters on. And the thrusters cover up a bunch of the visual gap, but if you want to get very detailed, again, you can do some very interesting customizations. And also, I suggest when you attach these guys, put your nub marks towards in this orientation, not this. They're easier to so you won't see the sand marks either on the body or because they're obscured by those. All right, then parts 50 and 51. Now, when I first did this, when I built Bob, I wasn't really paying attention, and as you can see, the guns are in weird orientations. Pay attention to the part number and make sure that the parts go where they're supposed to go. Um, that way they'll be aligned properly. Unlike poor Bob, and this is one of the reasons why he's the crash test dummy. 51. All right. Point of detailing, if you want to scribe, they're really, really fine. That's 0.1 mil line here, but it's offset. So this side, looking at this from the rear, this line is a little bit higher than this line. So be careful when you're scribing across this, and almost guarantee you that you're gonna sand down this line. So probably scribe it first before you sand down this mold line, because there's a pretty good mold line running down the middle of this part. And there's a sculpted detail here. So be aware of that. That's not a manufacturing defect. Just you keep that. Okay. And again, you can't tell. Maybe you can tell on here. You kind of can. The socket on this side is a different size and shape than the socket on this side. So the parts pegs are sculpted differently. So pay attention to that. That's another pain point where you can end up forcing something that's not meant to go into that part. And this is the perfect example of what I talk about when I say that. This is why I say it, actually, why I say it. But as long as you're not in a rush, not really frustrated with the model or whatever, you end up with a nice part compared to poor Bob. As you can see, they were really jacked up. I suppose this is the right. So there. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. So there we go on that. And for those of you who are very, very detail oriented and want to customize and paint everything, even if it's not seen, panels sculpted on the back of this. So that's a panel, that's a panel, 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 panel. So lines, vibe there. I once found a Reddit. Oh, there are even some up here. Holy smokes. No, thank you. I once found a Reddit that was the Society of Hidden Paint, and it was all people who painted the inside of their models, whether that be airplanes, tanks, uh, like these guys. The doors can open and close. I glued mine shut. You can get fancy with magnets and play with them. But there are people who would paint the interiors of these in detail and then glue it shut so it would never be seen. But they know the inside is done, and that gave them a great deal of satisfaction, which I applaud. People who are that self aware and are dedicated enough to their hobby that they want to do something like that that gives them that level of satisfaction, even though no one else will ever see it. They'll never know if they're not told. They know that they did their model to the best of their ability, to the level and point that gives them joy. So I find that admirable. And then there were the people who did also have the doors rigged so it could be seen at times, which was awesome. That's a level of detail that I find pretty cool. But yeah, like on the, that'd be like me going back through and scribing all these panel lines. And I'm just not going to do that on this kit, to be perfectly honest. I may have said this before, but this EXS is my least favorite of all of the artifacts. Yeah, and that includes the Jim Thunderbolt with those crazy shields. And yeah, this is my least favorite, which is kind of why we're doing this quick build, so I can get it out of the queue and move on to more interesting things. Okay. Now here on the left thruster, there is a gap, which, well, whatever. Now, why am I putting these in after I said earlier, don't worry about it, put the other part on first? Because I've already showed you what I want to show you. Okay. And this is part 49, according to the instructions that are very hard to read. I can't tell from this angle without pulling the instructions close to my face where they actually go. So I'm just going to look at the pegs. Okay, this goes here. And this goes here. Butter. smooth as butter. And one last check. That is an empty spot. Okay, now we're getting on to the back. The rear portion, cat hair. My youngest boy, Caloru, was being lovey today, so there's cat hair on my desk. On me, and got on my desk. All right, now, do I need to... Yeah, I was a little messy with that. Okay, so looking at part 12, the interior portion for this, there are sculpted spacers here. So be careful when you're cutting this out and tidying it up that you don't completely remove that. Because this is an area, this is a part where there are gaps that are a pain to deal with. Okay, so this has both a peg and a slot, which is lovely because there's a peg hole and a slot that you just slide them in. From experience, this is a real pain piece to deal with. So I'm actually going to take a moment here and do a bit of work and glue this part in. And yes, I'm dragging the back of a fresh, brand new hobby knife toward my thumb. And there are little tiny scrapes in my skin, but no cuts. Because it's generally at an angle where it's not going to cut me. Okay, and sanding. Da-da-da. And my toothbrush. And there's a bit of inconsistency on the molds on the top. So I'm just going to drag my fresh knife across the edge to smooth it out. Very lightly. Moving it around a bit. And remembering to switch angles, switch directions. All right. Let me get a bit of sandpaper. even that out. Okay, there we go. Any other pain points on this before we get started? Okay, yes. The outsides of here, yeah, it's hard to tell if that's molded or not. I didn't pay attention. But the inside, we're all good. We are in good shape. We're going to go ahead and set that there. Haven't pushed it all the way in so we can make sure we get our glue. And that's likely to happen. So I'm going to put it gently. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the whole thing. There. Let that seep down inside. And you don't want it so thick up top. That's a bit of a problem point. Okay, and it's soaked down in and push. Push, push, push. And there we go. Not the best part that they've made. I don't know if it was intended for these pieces to be even here and here, but they're not. And it drives me nuts. Plus, there's a massive gap between both these, especially this side. It could be evened out a bit. But still, that's something to fix. All right, so there's that. And that's the holder for what looks to be the nose of the aircraft, spacecraft, flying thing when it changes form. This part is very thin, so be careful. Any if you're gonna mess with these nubs, file them down. Don't cut them. Otherwise, this part's going to be a royal pain. And this has some incredibly fine detail molded into it. And it's already still is a pain. So be careful with the gluing and gap filling on this. Because of that detail, like along lines that go across the gap up here, gap up here, gap along here, and then to join between these two parts. You got to be careful with the glue and not splodge it out a lot because it's difficult to get out and not ruin the molded details on this. They're just so fine. And then tab into hole, and there will be a little bit of resistance. This is kind of a hook, and the tab is curved. So you want to kind of twist it a bit gently when you do. But I'm going to leave it there for now because that's going to eventually come out. Assembled, part assembled. Next, we are working on our torso. Okay. Massive pain points on this. The head, the shoulder joints, this whole torso assembly is actually fairly picky, fairly finicky and sticky. Yeah, some of these there's just no way you're going to get detail damage. It's just going to happen. So be prepared. Or hopefully you've got God hands that will reduce the likelihood of that. Okay. So the first things we're going to talk about the torso. There are two pieces, two round pieces. The part numbers are 18 and 20 that slot into here, and their tabs are oriented in a specific way to make sure that they go in the right location and at the right height. But paying a little bit of attention on while assembling it will help out a lot. Now the head. Also, this is one of the heads that has a groove and tongue or tab and groove assembly to it. It's not just a peg. So the neck or the center part of the head needs to go into the torso while you're assembling it. And it's a very tiny, fiddly little piece that's easy to lose. However, putting the head in will get in the way of removing a pretty nasty injection point and fixing any damage that you may have done to this part while removing it from the sprue. So we're going to go ahead, pull out the spin blades and use the 2 mil spin blade to clean up in here. And then we'll fix that detail as well. And just gently shaving, because these things are sharp and will just cut right through this plastic like nobody's business if you're not careful. Scraping is a perfectly valid option if you're patient enough. But do be careful when you're doing this, both for yourself and for the plastic. Being careful for the plastic will be careful for you. And you have to just scrape, scrape, scrape. Moving it left to right as I do, so I don't end up wearing an uneven patch, or minimizing any unevenness while I am scraping. And I'm holding it perpendicular. The edge is perpendicular to the plastic. And I'm just kind of moving it around a little bit to make sure that any of my scraping is even. These can have a tendency to skip and leave little lines in the plastic while you're scraping it if you push too hard. So going back and doing some very light passes would be good. It's kind of hard to get sandpaper down in here. And why did I use the spin blade instead of one of my coarser ones? Because this is the right tool for the job. The spin blade is the better one. Um, these are better for Games Workshop stuff or harder plastic that aren't as concerned about the unevenness in the machining on those. These little God hand spin blades have been a godsend working on these things. All right, so that's done. Put it back so I don't lose it. And now we've got quite the divot up in here, unfortunately. So I'm giving this a really good sanding. Gonna get the fresh stuff out. And kind of just grind it down. Doesn't take much with that fresh sandpaper. All right. That's good enough. If I need to even it out a little bit, do I? Good enough. All right, so anything else that we need to be paying attention to before we assemble this part? Make sure any errant burrs and things back here are removed. And we're in business. I just put that over the head. All right, now here's an icky point. Let's look at the head. This is why we have pin sets, and definitely the most likely point in this assembly where something's going to go flying. So be really, really, really careful. This is exactly the reason why it is a good idea to have sharp knives. And yeah, you're probably not going to see it because the head's going to cover it up, but you want them with the tolerance so tight between these parts. Got to make sure that it's smooth before assembling, because once you stick the head down in the torso, you're not going to be able to get to the back. So do it now or forever hold your peace. All right. Putting that back, because there are two other parts that we need to be pulling out. Parts 18 and 20. Part 18. All right, so when you're looking at it, this is labeled B. B on your left, 18 and 20. Orient your torso parts like this. So the front is facing the same direction as your front. 18 goes on the left, 20 goes on the right, just like that. And the long tab goes forward, and this part, the molded part, goes to the outside. So part 18 is on the left, long tab goes forward, and this goes out. There is a part cut out here. So you need to be aware. And I'll tell you now, the reason why I told you all those things, because I guarantee you, even now, after I've done a few of these, they're going to go flying. This is not exactly an easy torso to put together. So all these little clues to be aware of while you're assembling, so when a part does go flying, empty sprue, you'll be okay. All right. So now, going to take a bit of a risk here and gently push that in. And using my pincets, putting these parts in. Okay. They're fairly stable. And now the head. Let's go, buddy. Let's go. Come on. Come on. The other thing you can do, if you're so inclined, is to trim that tongue off. Don't cut it. Trim it. And just glue the head down like I did on Bob. However, that creates a situation where the head can tilt in different directions, and you may not want that. Because I'm doing this build following the directions, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try getting the head in there in the proper way, but it may not work. Oh, come on, you piece of junk. And be prepared to curse at your parts quite a bit. All right, we're going to have to pull this rear piece back just a little bit. Hopefully it's not too much. Yep. Kind of figured that. All right, so we're going to take this out too. And pray. I think on Bob, I got so frustrated with this head that I did just end up cutting the trimming the tongue down so I could get it put together. Okay, now is that right? All right. There. Pretty. Pretty good there. Close enough for government work. Okay. Now, 13 and 24 are just the front detail parts on here. Hardest parts of this build is almost over. We still have to put the rest of the head together. It is painful as that's going to be with it on the model. If you're trying to do the slot and tongue part, it's easier and you're less likely to break the other head parts if you put the neck in first. I learned that the hard way. Okay. All right. Part 24 has nubs. That. Go with the. No, we're going to put this one in first. Okay. So your chest piece. This one's firm to go in and out, and it's hard to get back. So I may actually clean it up before I do this. And if you want to see me doing this to parts on a stream, let me know. I'll be happy to. I would just like to have someone in here talking to me while I'm doing it. Because it is difficult to see. It's not the most engaging visual content. But some people like it. I like watching people detail their models, so I'm sure I'm not the only one. There's got to be at least one other weird person in the world. Okay. So here's where we get the sandpaper again. And there's molded parts here, but there's unevenness up here. So I'm using semi-worn, already used sandpaper that's not fully worn down. So not using fresh stuff will just grind right through it. We want some bite, but we don't want to dig too fast. Because the relief detail on this part is kind of shallow or small. Okay. And it is worth your time doing this ahead of time before you put it on the model. Some of this stuff, like evening this trench part out, might actually be easier once it's on the body. But sanding, for sure you want to do that while before it's been put on the torso. And that's good enough. Ooh, what are you? Okay. Are you? Yep, you are. There we go. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And that may never come out again. So perhaps I should have put some glue in there. Perhaps not. Because that's a royal pain in the butt to scribe down. There's a molded part here that you're very likely to remove if you glue and have to clean. It's so small that it's not noticeable, probably, but still. Okay, and then 24, this round peg goes in the square hole, and once you do, it's going to be hard to clean these off. And this is a peg for one of the pieces. So go ahead and take a little time ahead of time. And there's a big old mold line running through the part of this, the center of it. So clean that up as well. Okay. Now I'm not using this blade to cut anything. I'm just using it to scrape. Because it's pretty even. And it's good for smoothing things out. All right. Now I do need to cut a little something here. Done. Okay, that's in good shape. Square peg, round hole, push. And done. That is all of this step. So now we're going to put the head together. Final assembly. Thank goodness. Yeah, it's only been an hour and a half. Not too bad with me yapping my head off. Yapping. When did Gen, whatever they are now, take over using yapping? That's something my parents used to say. Something to note, looking at the bottom of the crown of the head, there are a couple of different lines that you could potentially use as guides to trim this up if it's pretty fat. It's a lot thicker front to back than most of the other what the heck do you want to call it? Not crown, but whatever that's going to be called. Chevrons. That they can be kind of unsightly or just look strange up next to one of the other ones. So that if you want to trim it, this is a pretty easy crest. We'll call it. There you go, crest. Pretty easy point to do. I'm not going to bother with it because I don't care. This is going to be a game piece, and that's really it. And it's not going to be one of the kits I put a lot of time and effort into. I should say that outside of my normal nitpickiness, I do still have to maintain my standards. Guys got to have standards too, you know? Okay. Here's that. Put that back down. Pin sets. Yeah. That's unfortunate. All right. Yeah. That's all we're going to do. Now, most difficult part of the assembly coming up. There is a very good case to be made for assembling and gluing the head first. And which I probably should have done, but I was so consumed in following the directions step by step that I didn't. Because there's a ridge on either side of the head that makes it very difficult to get this piece in if you're not careful. Or even if you are, I suppose. Yeah. So what I'm going to do in this situation, what any intelligent, semi-intelligent person might do, just trim and glue. And I'm only going to put glue up here at the top in hopes of avoiding gluing the head to the actual torso. And that being the end of the game. Oh, come on, you little son of a... All right, next. I don't know why they decided to do the heads in these pieces. I still applaud their sense of detail and need for all of that, but my goodness. They could have just made it one piece. The one piece is real? Is that what Luffy and crew say? Okay. And now we do this. And there we have it. The head assembled well enough for my satisfaction. And not sticking the main body together. And that's that. Torso, right leg, here. Torso, right leg, left leg. That's actually left arm. And the right arm. And then the back parts. All right. So here we go. Let's put these things together. Come on, buddy. There we go. All right, now this is a part you want to be careful about. Hold it by the shoulder and gently work it in. The left arm is hard. The right arm goes in just fine. Excuse me, left arm goes in just fine. The right arm is the trouble one. And I feel like I'm going to break something. This is how I broke Bob's arm off last time. All right. So once you've assembled this, it's kind of hard to tell what's left or right. Looking at the peg, there's a cut out of this corner on both of them, on one of the corners on both of them. And there's a cut out of a corner on these, and this is facing rear. So the corner cut on this faces along this edge here, away from that. Plop. Plop. So your guns, if that's what they are, should be facing away from the torso of the mech. And there we are. A successfully built EXS. Thank you for watching me build this guy. We have... Oh, by the way, I'm not sponsored by these folks. I just thought they were cool stickers. I got a model from them. Here we go. Two XS is built. Almost. Forgot the last part. Oh, and oh boy, I forgot two important parts. That's now going to be a pain in the butt to get. Maybe not. Okay. I can tell I'm getting tired. It's a good thing we're done. All right. So looking at this, this is part 14 and 15. There's a tab, goes into the slot in the back. And this just pops right in here like that. That's a prime piece for gluing. But first, make sure to clean it up. Because this is, yeah, these have some divots in them and unevenness. There we are. And there we are. So there we go. A completed EXS minus the foot stand. So we get the foot stand, make it funny how he stands more easily than Bob. And that just slides on like that. Training wheels. 2 EXSs. I wonder how they'll look in a game. Like what kind of rules we'll be able to use. Excuse me. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm wondering if one-page rules or if a different game has enough, what's the word? I keep wanting to say customizability to suit all the weapons for all the Gundams that are in this whole artifact line. in a way that will meet a game. But there we go. EXSs are done. Model 2 out of 21 is finished. And kind of funny, this is our next model. The High New. So let's take a quick peek at this. That's interesting. But everybody, I've actually got one that I've been working on. So yeah, this one's actually fairly easy to describe. It's got details too, but it's the High New. Not the high V like I had been saying before. I figured out it's a Greek letter, not just a V like they print here in slight italics. I probably could have read the katakana and figured that out. So yeah, we will. The next video in this series, coming when I want to do more modeling, will be the next High New. Thank you for watching. Oh, there's somebody in here. Hello, person that's in here. Can you chat? Would you please try chatting for me? I've seen people come in and out, and my friend who has come in has not been able to chat. So I don't know if this is actually on or not. We're going to put this in here. Add emotes. Can I add an emote there? Okay, so chat's working. Person, you just came in right as I was finishing the build up. Let me go ahead and get it out. So there's the EXS that got finished. His buddy Bob, the crash test dummy. And then we're going to be moving on in the next stream to the high New, or as what was it? What's Matt Mercer's character's name in Overwatch? McCready. High Noon. Yeah. So thank you very much, person, for coming in to visit. And those of you in the future who are potentially watching this, thank you for watching that. Please do leave the like. Subscribe if you want. Don't subscribe if you don't. It's just nice to have more people see it to increase the likelihood of people talking in stream. Because I love watching people's build streams and see all the chat. But it's quiet here. Okay, enough of that. So I've already gone over what we have done, what we're going to be doing next. That really cool looking High New. And I have been Phil, the miniature model maker. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, this is a hobby. If it's not bringing you joy, don't do it. Be good to yourselves. Bye-bye.